In the previous lecture, we saw that the drain source current depends on the mobility, which isn't surprising. Higher mobility means that charged carriers can go faster when they are accelerated under a given electric field. So if you have a higher mobility, you should expect a higher current. So the current from the drain to the source depends on mobility, but we decorated that mu with a subscript S to indicate at the surface. Mobility is lower in the inversion layer than it is in the bulk of the semiconductor. And the bulk of the semiconductor mobility is what was described in chapter 2 of this book. So this is a different value of mobility. It's going to be lower, and I want to talk a little bit about why that is. But first, why mobility is important, because we talked about in the last lecture that the current from the drain to the source is proportional to velocity, and velocity V at high current becomes the terminal velocity, but it's proportional to the mobility. More mobility, more velocity. And so the drain source current that you will measure with your meter in the lab is proportional to the mobility in the inversion layer. And so when I say mu sub S, I'm talking about the mobility in the inversion layer. And S stands for surface. And remember, sub N and sub P is because electrons and holes have different values of mobility. Electrons have higher mobility than holes. Let's talk about why at the surface the mobility is lower. There are two parts to that story. One of them having to do with the fact that the inversion layer is full of electric field, and the other part is a material science issue. That is that the interface where the inversion layer is has defects in it. Near the surface, you have all of these crystalline defects due to the fact that silicon dioxide has been grown on top of silicon. And so it's not surprising that there's going to be a reduction in the quantitative transport properties, like mobility specifically, due to the resurfaces. Whether you're an inversion or not, just being near the surface results in the measurement of a lower mobility. Carriers that move in that region move with lower mobility, and that happens to be the region where the inversion layer is. And the second issue is that in the inversion layer there's higher electric field. As you go deeper into the semiconductor, the electric field gets lower, and by the time you get through the depletion region, as you keep burrowing into the semiconductor, the electric field has gone to zero once you pass through the depletion region. The inversion layer has a pretty high electric field. The highest electric field in this device is contained within the oxide itself. So the dielectric that makes the MOS capacitor, of course, has the highest E field. The inversion layer is inside of the conducting wall for the MOS capacitor, but it's a layer that has a gradual drop-off in E field. And so yes, you have a high electric field inside the inversion layer, and of course that electric field is important. That's why charges accelerate. So you have this high E field. Now when you have a high electric field, you move the electrons closer to their velocity saturation point, which you read about in chapter 2. You may want to go back and review that high electric field effect. Velocity saturation tends to happen in small length scales, and well, the inversion layer is definitely a small length scale, and so you have this saturation due to the high electric field. Think of it this way: the carriers in the bulk of the semiconductor are shielded from high electric field, so they're thinking low electric field, and so since terminal velocity is mobility times electric field, if you ask a carrier deep in the semiconductor what its mobility is, it would say, well, a lot higher than I need it to be, so I'm fine. But a carrier near the surface is experiencing a high electric field, so it's behaving like it's a lot closer to the maximum velocity that it can ever reach, which is mobility times E field. And so sure enough, the carriers near the surface behave as if they have a low mobility, while they have a lower mobility because the electric field is high. I hope that kind of makes sense. This is kind of neat. So I'm going to show you exactly what this means now. Well, hopefully I'm going to show you exactly what this means. If you look at the electric field dependence of surface mobility, you'll see a universal dependence on doping. That is, the surface mobility as a function of the electric field has a certain form to it. As the electric field in the inversion layer goes up, the mobility goes down. Kind of a neat thing is that if you look at that for different doping levels, they all fall on the same curve. So this is surface mobility as a function of the average electric field contained inside of the inversion layer. And by average, it's average because at the top of the inversion layer, the interface from the semiconductor to the oxide, you have a higher electric field. When you get down deeper into the semiconductor, you get to the back of the inversion layer, the electric field is lower. So this is just the average for that region. That's what that means. If you have high doping, that means you have a very high space charge concentration in the inversion layer, because there's a small depletion region as well. So with very high doping, the electric field drops off more quickly. And so that's why there's a lower average electric field when you have higher doping. And when you have lower doping, there's more electric field contained in the inversion layer, which is also larger. And this curve that they follow is modeled just differently by different workers, because if you take a data set like this, you can make it fit a lot of forms. And so what's suggested here, where it goes as the electric field to the minus 1/3, is one form that can be suggested, and it doesn't hold very well at high E field. This to E to the 1/3 downstairs kind of starts to deviate quite a bit as you get past, 1 1/4 or so. That's supposed to have units on it. Megavolts per centimeter. At higher electric field, you're also going to have less surface mobility. There are more accurate expressions in the book, in section 6.3 about surface mobility. Different expression for holes and electrons, because they clearly function differently. And so we use those equations that are in chapter 6 for the surface mobility of electrons and holes, rather than this thing. And you notice these behaviors here, both of them, they deviate from the curve when you get to lower field for each one of these curves. And what's happening there is scattering from impurity ions. As you get to lower and lower fields, the charge carriers are going slower and slower, and the scattering off of impurities becomes more pronounced. And so that's what causes deviations and at the low end. And this is pretty much the end of the curve right here. And if you need to get a higher mobility, you actually need then to go to a higher doping. And that is kind of a contrary to what we concluded in chapter 2. We did not conclude that increase in the doping increases the mobility, right? We came to the completely opposite decision. Normally, in the bulk, high doping means low mobility, but at the surface, there's a different set of processes going on. Now I want to say a little bit about this average electric field in the inversion layer. For that, we need a little bit of a model of the inversion layer, and there it is, but I've got a blow up here. The electric field is shown at the top of the inversion layer, that is where it meets with the oxide, and at the bottom of the inversion layer, that is where it meets the depletion region. And the electric field is maximum at the top of the inversion layer because it's really the highest inside the oxide, inside the dielectric for the capacitance. And so this is the inversion layer. That should really probably say oxide, not gate, right there. And the electric field is higher there. So E top is higher than E bottom. And when I say average down here, I just mean the average of those two quantities. And they're actually worked out in chapter 6. And I would direct you to that. And they're slightly different. They're different expressions, whether you're talking about electrons in an N-FET or holes in a P-FET. And I guess I've perused the literature and found that these are purely empirical expressions here, and there's no really consistent theoretical explanation for why they're different. The difference is small. It's most of this 1 in front of the threshold voltage for NFETs and a 1.5 for PFETs, and then this sign difference. And you'll also notice that these 6's in the denominator deviate from measured cases. I will direct you to figure 6.9. You'll notice the x-axes use these expressions. So study figure 6.9, study the horizontal axes, and see how these expressions are worked in. Let's add one little extra detail in the middle of all of this, and that is, how does mobility go down? I realize I left that out. So as the electrons flow through the inversion layer, which is this top layer, unmarked layer, but with the circle through it, there's the electric field in the inversion layer. The electric field is perpendicular to their direction of motion because it's coming from the gate, and so it causes a deflection of their trajectory, and they deflect toward the interface between the oxide and the semiconductor, which is where the inversion layer is. And then you have additional scattering due to 3 key mechanisms: charges that are trapped at the interface, charges that are inside the oxide, and roughness of the surface between the oxide and the semiconductor. And that's the key mechanism that actually pulls down the mobility, and why we need to know what the average electric field is in here, so we know how deflected the charges get. So there's some takeaway points for us. Let's begin with high mobility is desirable. Let's just accept that, because then you can have a lot of current, and if you have a lot of current, you can have a fast transistor. And there are different ways to get it, just looking at these expressions. First of all, small electric field helps you get high mobility. So if a small E field helps you get a high mobility, and these are the expressions for E field, you get a small E field by having a large oxide thickness. Okay, so large oxide thickness gives a smaller electric field, which gives you higher mobility. But you look upstairs in the expression and you have threshold voltage, and so a smaller threshold voltage also gives you a smaller electric field, which, go to the curve here, gives you a larger mobility. So those are 2 really important things to keep in mind. It's helpful to have a thicker oxide, which works against us in other ways, which we're going to talk about. And it's helpful to have as small a threshold voltage as possible, which will always be a goal that's kept in mind. So what's in this box is built on the premise that large current is desirable. That current flows between the drain and the source. And so let's talk about why a high drain source current is desirable. Just think about where the drain source current is coming from. It's coming from the external circuitry, which has reactance to it. Whether it's capacitive or inductive, it has reactance to it. And that reactance needs to be drained. If this is a fast-moving circuit, most of the time the reactances are capacitive. If this is a high-speed circuit where transistors need to be able to switch, once every nanosecond, any external capacitance needs to drain fast. Now, how do you drain external capacitance fast? You need to have a lot of drain source current, right? If I drain source is really slow, then it's going to take forever to get all that charge off the external capacitance. And so that's why a high drain source current is desirable for high-speed circuits, and high-speed circuits are the important development of the 21st century. So let's focus on achieving that goal. And it results from a few different things that we'll keep in mind. And one I've already mentioned is the low threshold voltage. And another way to think about how low threshold voltage helps, besides by inspecting how it affects the electric field in the inversion layer, is just give some thought to how the lower the threshold voltage is, the earlier you start having drain source current. If you look in all of the expressions we've dealt with since Chapter 5, threshold voltage is always a negative offset to the gate voltage. And so if you can minimize that threshold voltage, you minimize any negative offset to the gate voltage. And so you can start to pour the drain source current through more readily, more sooner. and the high mobility at the surface. mu sub ns and mu sub ps, the hole in the electron mobility at the surface, gives you a higher drain source current. It is directly related to the idea that drain source current is proportional to mobility. So we have to look at how we can get higher mobility as well. We're going to focus really through chapters 6 and 7 of this book on how you can get the threshold voltage reduced. Let's begin that just with the very next lecture, where we're going to talk about the body effect, so we can see how threshold voltage is affected by design and operation of a MOSFET.